Hello and welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to a Historical Humans Reacts. And today, in a landmark decision, Illinois is now home to a federally recognized tribal nation after a decision from the Department of the Interior, which is coincidentally run by an indigenous woman, Deb Holland. So you were seeing a lot of ramifications of having a person who understands these issues and understands these plights making these decisions. And this story hits really close to home for me specifically because this is the prairie band of Potawatomi Nation that are repurchasing lands that were previously a part of their reservation in northern Illinois. And this happens almost 175 years after the federal government illegally auctioned off 1,300 acres of their land. And this is in DeKalb County, which is northern Illinois. I did my undergrad at Northern Illinois University, so not that far strong. And this is a huge landmark case because Illinois has not had a tribal reservation on their lands in over 150 years. So this
Yeah.
is
Despite the fact that U of I's mascot was the chief for
yes.
God
Y-
knows how long.
Yeah, the incident that is being for lack of a better term undone here is a 175-year-old crime that occurred when Chief Chabanais traveled from the reservation in Illinois to visit his family who were living on a reservation in Kansas. While he was away, the U.S. government forcibly seized the land and auctioned it off, all of which was incredibly illegal on, I think, pretty much every level, since not only was it violation of treaty for between an indigenous nation and the federal nation, but also just outright selling another man's property.
Yeah,
And this isn't the full reclamation of the entire reservation. However, it is a vast portion of it. So there was originally 1,300 acres, and recently the Prairie Band has been gathering finances and gathering money and repurchasing it. In it's unfortunate that they have to go through and repurchase, but it's a really cool story of how they found a way around the system and how they have fought for over 100 years for this, and they have worked diligently to try and do so. And now they recently just signed over the 130 acres of land into tribal trust, meaning that the reservation it will be reestablished. And this is
Yeah,
so monumental that they've began this process over 30 years ago.
yeah,
30
yeah. The
years.
the tribal
Yikes.
nation, when reached for comment by a number of news agencies, said that they had gone about trying to find the least disruptive path to reclaiming their homeland and their reservation, and that this method, while slow, is what they have chosen. They have turned over to trust only 10% of the land that was initially stolen from them 175 years ago.
One of the other things
So,
that's pending that's kind of interesting is that there's a bill in the Illinois House currently that would also give the Prairie Band the title to approximately 1,500 acres of land that make up Shabona Lake State Park, which is located about 20 miles southwest of DeKalb. And
yeah,
the park is named after Chief Chabanais and covers much of their original reservation as well. So while that's a little less likely to be passed, although I fully support it, it's another way in which the tribe might double or quadru or what 10x their reservation size already within Illinois.
yeah, and one of the key legal precedents for this is a 2020 ruling by the Supreme Court, which states that unless the federal government specifically went about the process to declare a reservation or reservation lands to no longer be reservation lands, that reservation is still valid, and the native peoples who were assigned to live there still have a right to that land, irregardless of anything else that the government or the private sector has done.
One
Which, basically means Illinois owes these people another like 1,100 acres of land.
Which the interesting thing is, and this is one of the reasons why I think that the leaders of the Prairie Band are super adept and very, very intelligent, because they also have proposed federal legislation that would clear up the issues with cloudy titles of houses that are on the land. And what that states is that the landowners and their children can maintain that property as long as they keep passing it down. However, the legislation would allow the tribe the first right of refusal the second that house goes on the market. So they could have the ability to purchase that land should it go on the market. And I just think that's phenomenal. I think that's a great way to give the power back to the tribes. And while expensive and maybe cost prohibitive to a lot of tribal nations, that is a way in which we could have a more amicable solution to the land ownership issues that traditionally plague post removal indigenous nations.
Yeah, because the key is to try and find an avenue for the tribal peoples to reclaim land that is more or less indisputably theirs without disenfranchising thousands of other people who are wholly removed from the criminal act that resulted in the loss of these lands in the first place. The idea of we don't want to punish this other guy who bought this land from the government and built his house here, but at the same time, there needs to not be his house here. Honestly, I kind of could see the federal government being forced to front that bill, since you were the one who made the profit selling it off illegally in the first place. But that's probably never going to happen.
Yeah.
But
in the meantime, I'll take the little wins, like Illinois finally getting a tribal nation back.
They do have some representative support in both the Illinois House and the U.S. House. U.S. Representative Lauren Underwood is a co-sponsor of the bill that would give them. There was a federal legislation that was introduced to redress the seizure of Potawatomi lands, and companion bills promise cash settlements to the bands to reacquire additional lands in and around the original reservation boundaries. So effectively, there's already legislation in place that would do this, and they have the sponsorship of it. And there's an Illinois state representative, Mark Walker, who sponsored the Shibona Lake State Park as a part of the reservation. So it's just cool. It's really fascinating to see politicians taking up arms in support of this, and to see just the reclamation of tribal lands.
Not actively inhibiting it.
Oh my God, like, it's such a change. But I think that's a good point for us to wrap up. This is something that's close to home for me specifically, and something I'm super passionate about. So I figure we had to talk about this. This is
also, who doesn't love a little bit of good news?
Yeah, we usually talk dark topics and bad topics. This is the first time we're happy.
Yeah, I know. Usually something's going wrong in this industry and we're complaining about it. This feels weird, guys.
Yeah, send help. Thank you guys for watching. Hopefully we bring good news in the future, and we'll see you in the next one. Peace.